Now, most nights I'm actually busy recording my voice and my talking. This night, I decided that I'd do something different, and instead, I would record a thing, I suppose. I'm currently deleting old videos and stuff, but I found, not this weird high noon thing, but I did find this old project, which is... There was a group I used to be a part of, and the combat of the game I'm currently making is based off of this particular game system. It's like the same combat system. So I was thinking, I'll be programming it from scratch. We'll see how that goes. Suddenly, I find that this is actually functioning, somewhat. So right now I'm supposed to be working on just making sure that the paths work in that really crude path generator? No, it's not a path generator, but the really crude map maker I'm working on. Now with this, you can click move, you can move around. Item button doesn't work, or it shouldn't work. Okay, item button breaks it. But what I notice is that when you attack the enemies, and let's say he's dead, you can't move through the spot. So I was thinking, maybe I'd look around the code and try to figure out what was what again. So there's a battle view, which seems to be a J component, which is going to attach, I would guess, to the main window, which is the frame. It has a battle view and a world view. Well, I'm already done with programming a new world view, so I don't need the world view. So the battle view, and this is where the main program starts. Just opens the GUI. You can hear my cat in the background being very needy kitty. So anyway, we are going to simply, because I know some people like to see some basic programming, we're going to go through this really old code, and we're going to try to figure out how to make it so that when we kill an enemy, we will be able to walk through them. Now, there's going to be significant changes to this particular thing, but the math, I suppose, behind the combat, like you can see it kind of down here, is what I'm going for, just on a much bigger scale. So if I can complete it on the small scale, I know I can upscale it to something much bigger. And currently, I cannot move forward into this spot that this person has died in, which is not good. I need to move into that spot. So let's figure out how this works, right? Skeleton.java, I believe that would be the AI for those skeletons, and as you can see, it's blank. It never runs. Nerd would be the character itself. I remember that much. My cat likes to jump on my power button whenever I don't pay attention to him, because he knows it'll shut off my machine. So he just tried to do it there. Now I'm scratching him. His little butt. So you have agility, charisma, dexterity, health, intelligence, luck, speed, strength, wisdom. And that just goes through and does stuff. Combat. This is where the combat would actually happen. So you make a new combat, you give it nerd, so that would be the main character, a monster it's fighting, and the type. So it looks like type is either melee or ranged. So it'll either do a melee round or a range round, which is going to be agility versus agility or dexterity versus agility. But what I am interested in is when they die, which would be a strength versus endurance run, and it will return this. The question is, where is this called? What creates a new combat? This just makes the main window. Did I actually put it in the main window? Oh, dang. Yeah, I guess so. When the mouse button is released, pointer info equals mouse info dot get pointer info. That should give you the X and the Y if you, make a point P based on the pointer info's location. From that, we can get a p.y and a p.x. So I guess what this does is it divides it in, and it says if it's in these particular areas, if it's in this area, that would be, I suppose, the, what would you call it? The place where the buttons go. That would be like the control panel thing. Then you have these, which would be the individual buttons. So if it's between these, the move button's clicked. Actually, this is really primitive, and I could update it if I really wanted to make it so that when you actually click the button, it's just, ugh. I mean, I know I was not as good as programming at the time, but I guess it serves its purpose, you know? Just specify it in particular. So that shows whether the buttons are clicked. It looks like it sends something that says changes the control state and then repaints the window or the component if control state equals 0. So basically, when I click and release anywhere that isn't a button, control state is 0. When I click move, control state is equal to 1, so it moves around, right? If control state equals 2, that's going to be attack button. This is what we're looking for. Oh boy. A for loop, it looks like it's going to loop through 6 times, and it looks like this one's going to loop through 3 times. 6 and 3. X and Y. So it's going to print out right when I click the attack button. Ah, so after it clicks, I have to click again. Did a bunch of those, right? So let's click the skeleton. Boom. It'll go through all of them, and it will print out the coordinates that it goes through. That's actually pretty friggin' useless, so I'm gonna undo that. Now it's quiet when we clicked, and it'll just tell us where we clicked. Attack position, attack hit, no damage. So then what it will do is, if x equals 5, which means if it's at the last point in the loop, it will look to see if the mouse pointer is less than 700. That seems to be where it's within the field. If p.y is greater than get battlefield x coordinate, if y equals 2, blah blah blah. Okay, so it will return the attack position, and it will check to see if that particular coordinate is occupied. If it is, then it sets up a new combat instance by setting it up with the character who's attacking. I suppose that's us, BB Nerd 0. Looks like this is going to be an array, so you can have multiple characters on the screen. I'm trying to figure out where that was set up at. Oh, it's not here. It's under BV, Battlefield. Okay, so you can have up to 4 characters, it looks like. You can have up to 9 monsters, so that's pretty tiny. And looks like this automatically goes ahead and sets up some monsters. So it really is a default little thing. So we're going to move back to... Actually, let's just close all of these. Where were we? In the main window. Alright. Control state equals 0, so... yeah. It'll run the combat instance, control state will go back to 0. And if it's 0, then I suppose it would repaint the buttons and everything. You know, what really bothers me is that this should be if, else if at the very least. And then there should be an else after which says no buttons clicked. But I'll leave it as is because, again, that's not what I'm going for. I'm just trying to do something smaller. See if this is a bit more salvageable, and then I'll replace the code. So to do the melee, combat. It'll set the state to 0, it'll repaint, and it'll break out of the loop. As for Y, it needs to wait for that to be 5. We'll see. This is a stacked else if. So this else if relates to this if x equals 5. Otherwise, if x does not equal 5, meaning it's not the last thing in the loop, then what it's going to do is check to see if the point of x is less than battlefield.get x coordinate x plus 1. We have to look at the get battlefield part. Battlefield. Inside of battlefield there is chords right here. Get x chord. I created this using a point system. So it can convert the coordinate that you give it, because each space, I remember, I made the point 2D, so like you have 0, 0s, 0, 1, 0, 2, 0, 3, 0, 4, 0, 5, and yeah, each one is based that way. So with this, I see, it'll get what the x coordinate is that's directly in front of it. Well, I gotta go through that the rest of the way later. The point is that after the combat, we need to check to see if the monster was killed, and if the monster was killed, then we would need to update the battlefield. We can do that by a simple is dead, I think. So like we can say get monster, right? There should be a monster class. There is. We can add a boolean that just says is alive or is dead. And then we just do checks. If they're dead, I know the battlefield seems, when I looked at it, yeah. I guess this determines whether or not the field is occupied or not. So we need to set it to false. Is there like a set? Yeah, there's a set occupied here. You give it the x and the y of the coordinate that you want to remove it from, and then you would set that space to false. The problem that we have is, in the combat method, I don't think it has any access to the battlefield itself. It's just between the two characters. So in order to approach this one, looks like I'm at 13 minutes, there would need to be, could we say bv dot, what pops up? There's no battlefield. Dot get battlefield. Okay, so yeah, we can get the battlefield that's currently in that. And then we would set the occupied point of that monster to the fact that it was dead. But it has to be based on the results of this combat. So seeing as you instantiate it and then you run it, or it runs itself immediately, do we pass it the battlefield? No, just the two monster states, and then it will update the monster state. So afterwards, it'll check the monster itself, and it will check its health. So if I can say bv dot get monster, oops, no, get monster x and y. That seems really inefficient. This entire code is really inefficient. So get monster as an x and y. Oh crap, what is this? Okay, that's just the drawing, but dang. We'll have to go through that again. So it gets an x and y, and it'll say, while there aren't monsters, and while monster at that point is not null, get the combat x, get the combat y, and return that monster. Those stacked ifs, though. Sorry, I'm really itchy. I'm also really tired. This probably isn't the best time to do this video, but actually I would say it is the best time to do this video because when I'm tired, that's when I seem to really get into coding. So, monster I get combat X. So inside of the monster class is going to be a get combat X, right? Because this is a thing of monsters. Yep. Get combat X. Return combat X. Well, what sets combat X? I guess nothing at the moment. So then you give it the monster. Oh, you give the coordinates and then it will give you the monster at those coordinates. Because it doesn't know which monster you attacked. It just knows that you attack the monster at these coordinates. So if you attack the monster at these coordinates, it's going to return a monster, right? Let me just make sure that it's going to return a monster before I move forward. Yep, it will return the monster. So if bv.getMonster, if you get the monster at X and Y, and that monster, yes, we got it, and that monster's current health is less than 1, meaning they are dead. These facky bracks is what I used to call them. Then we're going to set the space that that monster occupies to false. See, just like this where it says bv.getBattlefield is occupied. So we're going to say bv.set. Oh, we got to grab the battlefield dot set occupied the current, that X and Y point that we're looking at, to false. Alright, because they would have already been removed after this point, I believe. Maybe that's all we need to do. Okay, just to be sure, you know, I can't move in that direction. I'm trying. I'm pushing right, and it's not working. 1, 2, 3. So now I'm going to attack him. And before, when he disappeared, I couldn't move through. Now, I still can't move through. This is actually what you expect to happen in programming. It's not always going to work that way. The real question that we have to find out now is just why. Oh. First, we make sure that we get into here. And we'll say, killed monster. If you successfully kill the monster, it'll go into here. Although with this really convoluted, wow. He died instantly. So as we can see, killed monster didn't pop up. Attack position did. And it told us that we attacked at 3. So it's, you know, 0, 1, 2, 3, 1. That's up 1. However, the monster's health never went below 1, as it saw. So, I don't know what went on exactly. So, let's go into the combat method and figure out why it didn't go below 1. 5 damage done. For 5 damage done, we have to scroll down to wherever it says damage done, right here. DVE. DVE equals dexterity versus endurance. Dexterity versus endurance is going to be there. It's going to roll those two. It's going to get that. It's going to get that. While DR is equal to ER, it's going to go right back in. So if dr is less than dexterity, equal nerd.getDexterity. So this caps it off at a specific one. And it will keep going, making sure that they will never equal each other. And then it will return the difference from between the two. Okay. So let's go back up to our code here. That's going to be equal to the difference between the two things. Actually, it's going to be... Is it dexterity versus endurance? Yeah, I'm questioning things, you know. I think strength versus endurance is what's going here. Scroll back up. If SV is less than or equal to 0, then print out no damage. Here's what we were looking at. So it's going to take the monster and it's going to set its current health to whatever its current health is minus SVE. That's it? Yeah. It's going to get its current health minus SVE, set that health, and then we're done. Go back to the battle view. Or the main view. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the monster's health before. Before health plus bv.getMonster at x and y dot get current health. If it seems like I'm being really lazy in my code, it's because I am. When it comes to air checking, it's not a precise science. This should allow us to see attack missed, attack hit, that damage done. But it's still not popping up here. That's because there's multiple. If battlefield is occupied, there's another monster. So there's multiple states, I suppose? I think this is all I need to do right here. Copy this, paste it right here. We're going to check before we do anything else. Yep. So for some reason, and I'd have to go through and look through the rest of my code to figure out, again, I'm not sure why I have this complicated for set up, but I know there is a reason. Then, for some reason, it wasn't wanting to work out. Alright, I'm attacking. Once I kill him, I should be able to move through his spot. Cool. And then finally, you can attack things that are diagonal to you in this one. I don't think that should be done. Yay! I can move around everywhere. So, yeah, the combat math, which you can kind of see down there, and you kind of saw it in this combat method, is the same combat math I'm going to be using for the game itself. But imagine fights being sort of like that, but on a really large world. If you played Fire Emblem, then you kind of know how the combat is going to be moving around, so to speak. Maybe I'll make the same type of tile-based thing for each battle, but make it larger or smaller depending on where you are. That actually seems pretty nice to do. Of course, there's still drawing and animations to do there. We'll see where that goes. But really, all I needed to do Like, it's nice that I found this, because I get to gut it, probably gut most of it, and use some of the existing code and definitely the existing combat math to make the game I'm currently making. Just, it's so simplistic right now. Though it's really nice to look at old code and be like, hey, I wrote that long ago. You know, all I can say is, good job, old me. You done good. You done good. So now, I'm gonna get back to the actual, world creator, the DARPG, as opposed to NHRPG TG, which has currently the main window, the world generator, and the world view, which if you notice, or I noticed, that this other thing, the Nerdherd RPG TG, also had a world view, which I think is more complicated. It reads from a file too. For shits and giggles, we could try to attach that instead. Looks like I already had it and it just commented out. And it's broken. Yeah, this happens with old code. I'm going to go ahead and undo that. So it sets up a world view and it sets up a battle view. I wouldn't do both. I can understand world or battle view, and at the current game I'm at, you're going to be in the world view while you're walking around the world, and when you're in battle, you will switch over to the battle view. So this is kind of similar to what I want to set up. And world view and battle view are separate views, so to speak, meaning that they are separate components. As you can see, J component is used here, which allows us to draw images, as you can see with this. This is for the health. I'll study this. I'll figure out what I can carry over. But I'm going to end the video for now. It's been almost 30 minutes. And I'll upload it, see how that goes. I'm sure somebody will get a kick out of it. This is the programmer's life, I guess.